So I'm sitting here thinking about a topic because of how hot it is and how much it affects my vision, just as much as migraines do. And essentially, it's almost like a delirious state that your body goes into when you have such extreme heat intolerance. And I've been going through this since I was little. I mean, the first time I experienced this, I was maybe 5 years old. And even I had exercise intolerance since I was little. I'd be playing with the other kids with my family, and my mom would have to rush to give me Tylenol because the fever would get so out of control just from exercise intolerance. So I remember I was like 5 or 6. We were playing on my great grandma's bed, and we were jumping on the bed because we were moving her out of her home, and it was insane how quickly my mom rushed to fix the problem because she had already experienced this. If she didn't stop the problem then she would have to rush me to get hydration, and also I would be delirious for days. So oftentimes these episodes could last anywhere from a couple hours to 2 or 3 weeks. And so when I tell people, because I've experienced medically induced psychosis from medications, okay? And this is why I advocate for marijuana, because essentially for me, I didn't have the effects of psychosis with marijuana. I had it with medications. What I did have with marijuana, the first time I tried it, was that I was given too much and it put me into a fear state, and not necessarily paranoia, but just fear state that I had been poisoned. And so I do tell people to be very, very careful. This is not medical advice in any way, shape, or form, and it's not health advice in any way, shape, or form. I'm just sharing my experience. And so a little bit of CBD during this delirium can actually be very helpful in reducing those symptoms of dizziness, your vision impairments, the tunnel vision. Because your vision, it's almost like you're not operating your body. It's almost like an out of body experience. And so we now are clear that this is a form of disassociation. So when your body goes into that disassociation from all of the effects that are going through it because of that heat intolerance, oftentimes you can pass out, throw up, and develop all kinds of other issues. And as somebody who has been experiencing that since I was a little girl, when I say I understand that my reality is never going to be the reality that other people live, I'm not talking about being crazy, psychotic, or delusional. I'm talking about the reality that I live in. My physical vessel does not work like everyone else's physical vessel. My vision does not work like everybody else's vision. Trying to pretend like we are on the same frequency is stupid. It's stupid to assume that you understand what another person is going through based on your experiences and your visual field. Because for me, everything feels different when my vision is like that. Do you see what I mean? Everything I see is different, and I have always had to question my reality. I think that's why. Okay, so I use this as a comparison solely because my cousin never got help when he was younger for his trauma. And he was already exhibiting signs of psychosis long before he went into the military. I think if the Marines would have done a proper psychiatric assessment before accepting him into the military, he wouldn't have developed schizophrenia because the military will break you down to build you back up. So I believe if a proper psychiatric assessment would have been done, but the thing is that the military takes all of these broken children because those are the soldiers. Those are the perfect soldiers. Those are the easiest ones to break and rebuild. And it's not necessarily that they break them to keep them broken. They break them to rebuild them to be perfect soldiers. That is what it does. You're signing up for that. You know that you're signing up for that. And some people's minds break. So essentially, throughout my life, it's been very proper training. So even when I went through my episodes of psychosis from the medications that I was on, like for instance, Reglan was one of them. Another one was prednisone, not low dose prednisone. I was on 120 milligrams. But I didn't talk about that with my therapist. Why? Because I understood from a really young age that these type of topics I could only take to my specialist for my migraines and to the specialist for what was going on for the heat intolerance, which I didn't really have a proper specialist. I had a doctor in Tijuana that explained to me that I would need to be hydrating, a doctor in Mexico when I was a kid that explained to me the type of hydration that I needed. So Suero has been a very consistent thing of my life. Suero, electrolytes has been a consistent thing in my life since I was about 6 years old. And so when a person arrives to the hospital with psychiatric symptoms, it's always best to do all the medical stuff before you call the psychiatric consult, because essentially you're judging a person's experiences without understanding what that person is going through. The other day, someone called the cops on me when I was at Fiesta Island, and I'm just not cool with that, because you have no idea what I am living with and how difficult it is to move through the world with what is going on. And by calling the cops, you're actually placing me in danger. You're not helping me. You stopped me when I was walking out of the park and asked me if I needed help, and I said no. And I was clear about it in saying no, which means that not only was I responsive, I was fully conscious and there to be able to fully respond to you, not lying to you. But essentially, because people are watching what they don't fucking understand, for them, it's simpler to say, you know what, that person is insane and going through psychosis. Because essentially, anybody who's different, anybody who moves differently through this world is going to put the normies out of whack, because it's not us that have a difficulty regulating our nervous system. It's law enforcement, it's nurses, it's doctors, it's people, bystanders on the street that do not understand these concepts and are so broken in their head from their own trauma and experiences that they can't see someone else's experiences. And it's not just a lack of empathy, it's a lack of compassion and understanding, because you're intentionally misunderstanding to be able to prove a narrative that you already created in your head before even knowing the facts. Before even knowing the goddamn facts, you already created this narrative. But this headache in the back of my head, I've been living with it my entire goddamn life. And any form of exercise exertion makes it much worse, which causes my vision to be impaired, my hearing to be impaired, my smell, my touch, my taste, everything to be impaired and amplified because of my hypersensitivities. Stop moving through the world judging others and pretending like you're trying to help. You are not helping anyone. When I tell people that it's easy to break someone and turn them into a ghost, but it is the cup of life to be able to bring them back to life, I'm not talking about people being people pleasers or people being saviors. I'm talking about people watching and just paying attention. Because essentially you could make my life easier by not making it more difficult. You don't need to help me. I don't need your help. I would have asked for help if I needed it. But what I did need is you not to add to my plate. But what did you motherfuckers choose to do? You chose to add to my plate. Now, y'all have no idea. These crisis teams have no idea what the fuck they are doing, and law enforcement needs to be a lot more careful before all eyes are on law enforcement to remove these crisis teams from being part of law enforcement. Because you need to retrain your entire police force. You need to retrain your crisis teams to understand complex medical conditions, or they should not be working in a crisis team. It's that fucking simple. I love you and have a good day.